Fast Track Solutions Incorporated is a software products and consultancy services company that provides world-class computerized business solutions to enterprises. Fast Track Solutions is now one of the largest SAP products and technologies providers in Asia Pacific. Fast Track Solutions is the only local partner in the Philippines named as Platinum Partner through its membership with the United Bars. Enterprise Business Group offers the following product. Fast Track Solutions Awards and Achievements.
Fast coming to fruition, in as much as at the end of within the next 30 to 40 days, as they would say, inshallah, God willing, we will be able to meet each other for our first person-to-person general forum. But for the meantime, it is my great pleasure to welcome each and every one of you, and also our dynamic guest speakers, no less than the National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation President has been invited to speak in today's forum, Mr. Renato Tobias. Also, Engineer Albert Perfecto, the Assistant General Manager of the National Housing Authority, shall likewise address the body so that we will be able to come up. And this, they said, there are many things to be, there are many new things that are happening in the National Housing Authority. We eagerly await much of this information. And so without much further ado, I would like to say, let us enjoy this afternoon session. And if you do have more questions at the end of the forum, I am sure our speakers will be more than willing to expound on it. Meanwhile, thank you very much, Joe, and to all our board of directors, our officers who is now online. Hoping to see you soon. I'll be back in Manila in 12 days. Thank you very much.
I was asking Charmaine where you are, and he said baka daw secret.
No, I am in BC in Canada. I'm in Canada.
Oh,
but
okay.
I'll be back in 12 days. I just got in 2 days ago from Honolulu, but we'll be back in 12 days for sure.
Great. We'll see you again soon.
Okay.
Thank you. Before we call on our esteemed guest speakers, I'd like to recognize a few guests. We have our Vice President, Vanji Iya, our Vice President for International Affairs. We'd like to also welcome our CREBA past National President, Jimmy Cura is here. Past President of Caraga Chapter, isn't he still currently President? Dr. Rodrigo Ego Malyonga. Our CDO or Cagayan de Oro Chapter President, Gigi Roa. Our SOC Sergeant Chapter President, Isidro Protasio. Our Pampanga Chapter, from the Pampanga Chapter representing President Carla, is her husband, Jimmy Espinosa, or is Carla also with you? We also have our Suki, former NHMFC Vice President, Rose Jose. Who else? Okay, I will just, we also have students from our Executive Development Program for Real Estate Management from LaSalle. And okay, that's about it for now. I'll just keep on acknowledging as they come. Okay, so, our Vice President from Negros, Roy Villa, is with us also. Also, Mr. Toby Hison from the Negros chapter. From our La Union chapter, Mr. Oscar Mabalot. Welcome, everyone. And for those who are from CREBA National here in Manila, welcome also. So today's forum will focus on programs and policy updates from NHA, or the National Housing Authority, and the National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation. And this is also our opportunity to meet the newly appointed leaders under the new administration. And we look forward to a smooth transition as we all work together towards achieving our dream of providing a home for every Filipino. So at this point, I would like to call on the newly installed president of the National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation, NHMFC, the Honorable Renato L. Tubias, for his short message.
Good afternoon to our very supportive allies from the Chamber of Real Estate and Builders Association, or CREBA, especially to National Chairman Charlie Gorayev and National President Noel Toti Carino. I am honored to be part of your online CREBA Industry Updates Forum that consistently provides advancement in the housing industry. We at the National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation believe that every Filipino deserves a home, and it should never take too long. We yearn for homes where families can live with pride and dignity of owning decent homes at an affordable cost. And we want a safer and sustainable community where our future generations can thrive, a dream home for every Filipino. Yet, the reality is not everyone can afford such a dream, especially those in the poorest sectors of our society. For the longest time, the government's key shelter agencies have shouldered the Herculean task of concluding the housing backlog, which, based on available data, is now at more than 6 million units. This housing backlog is also speculated to balloon to up to 22 million units by the year 2040. Now, under the administration of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., we are very pleased that housing is one of his priority programs. This is why we at the Government Housing Agency, under the leadership of DSUD Secretary Jerry Acosar, are all committed to deliver for the realization of this vision to build 6 million housing units over the course of 6 years for as many Filipino families as possible. We cannot deny that the task seems daunting, especially in uncertain times such as today, which is why this challenging task needs to be a collaborative effort among the government, our partners from the private sector such as CREBA, and of course, the home buyers themselves. Which is why National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation commends CREBA for championing this cause through its 5-point agenda for housing. Through this 5-point housing agenda, CREBA provides a package of interrelated policies and legislative reform proposals that aim to streamline, amend, or introduce new measures to housing laws. My salute to CREBA for this laudable cause. The National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation pledges its support to CREBA's endeavors. We commit to offer any assistance that will master the realization of CREBA's plans. And we highly encourage CREBAs to tap National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation's Housing Loan Receivables Purchase Program. Our core programs that provide liquidity, facility for housing originators. With me here is Attorney Dante Patapat of our securitization group. With this, thank you once again for making us a part of this forum. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, President Chochit. At this point, I would like to introduce Attorney Dante Patapat, Officer in Charge, Corporate Secretary and Manager, Securities and Liquidity Support Department, Securitization Group of NHMFC. Sir, kindly unmute, please.
I'm sorry, so may I begin again?
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. May I first greet the President of CREBA, President Carino. Good afternoon, sir. Also, VP Yumo. Good afternoon, Ma'am Jo.
Good
And
afternoon
the
po.
present here already also is VP Iya. And also, I would like to greet the other officers and members of CREBA and all the attendees present today. I will present this afternoon our latest project at the National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation. This is the Balay Shelter Compliance ABS. So the outline of our presentation for today, I will give a short background of the balanced housing development, and also provide you with the other modes that have been allowed by law to comply with the requirement, as well as the relevant issuances from the DHSUD. We will also make a presentation on the benefits to the investors in complying with the balanced housing requirement through the purchase of our security issuances. I will also give you a brief background of NHMFC, who is the seller of the issuances, and also other parties to the securitization transaction, as well as the indicative terms of the securities. And I will finally conclude with a little short summary of our presentation. So as a background, developers, as we all know, are required by law to develop an area for socialized housing equivalent to the following. So when you develop your own residential subdivisions or your condominium projects, the law requires compliance from the developer by developing socialized housing projects equivalent to 15% if you are developing a subdivision, or 5% if you are developing a condominium. So basically there is no it is not allowed that the developer will use a combination of project area or project cost as the basis for the computation. So if you use project area, you should use that for straight as the method of compliance or computing your amount of compliance. Same goes for project costs. If you use project cost, that should be the basis for all the computations of the compliance. However, the developer may combine several modes of compliance if one mode is not enough for you to be able to comply. So there are also penalties for non-compliance with the balanced housing requirement. This ranges from a fine all the way to cancellation of the business license. If the compliance project is not developed or has not been completely developed, it could impact on your license to sell, which may be suspended or canceled or even revoked. So the preferred mode of compliance for developers is that the socialized housing project should be constructed within the area of the main project. So part of the main project should be allocated for socialized housing. As mentioned earlier, 15% if you are developing a subdivision, or 5% of the condominium building if you are developing a condominium project. However, the law allows for alternative modes of compliance to the balanced housing requirement. One of the modes of alternative compliance is escrow of funds. So the developer, in the case of escrow funds, may be able to participate by depositing 25% of the total project cost of the socialized housing project, either through a third party for the implementation of land development. These are the uses of the escrow funds, or the installation of water utilities or power utility. The fund may also be used for the construction of non-saleable and non-recoverable housing projects on land owned by the government or land donated by private individuals or entities. Another mode of compliance as an alternate is the purchase of asset-backed securities, or ABS for short. The department issued a department order in 2020 which allowed NHMFC and also the Social Housing Finance Corporation to issue asset-backed securities. Our purpose for doing so is to raise funds to develop new housing projects, socialized housing projects. And according to the department order, the purchase of the bonds will be considered as full compliance of developers. Now, you will see later on the difference between the purchasing of our securities and investing in escrow as a mode of compliance. So these are the relevant issuances. We'll just go very quickly. Memorandum Circular 2021-12, this set forth the percentages of compliance, well, basically a copy of the law. So 15% for subdivisions, 5% for condominiums. Actual cost, meaning actual cost of the purchase, of if you purchase the security in the amount, for example, of 10 million, the entire 10 million will be credited to you as a compliance to the balanced housing requirement. Again, the purchase may be combined with other methods of compliance if the purchase amount is not enough for you to comply with the requirements. You can also use the securities as future or advanced compliance, meaning if you have projects in the pipeline and you anticipate that you will be needing compliance in accordance with what the law requires, you can purchase the securities in advance so that at the time of your development of your main project, you already have compliance for socialized housing or the balanced housing requirements ready for you to use. The proceeds, this is required by the department, the proceeds that we will receive from the issuances can only be used by National Home for socialized housing units. We cannot use it for any other purpose. It is allocated for purchasing and developing socialized housing projects. For the memorandum dated February 22, 2022, this sets forth the policy that any purchase of our securities will be considered full compliance already. Let me explain. Under the guidelines of the department, when you purchase, when you comply through escrow, your compliance is not final, but it is only provisional, because the department requires that your compliance project or the escrow that will be used for our compliance project, and the project should first be completed and finished before the department will issue a final certificate of compliance, and the department will then issue you a license to sell, and you can already sell your main project. But in contrast, in the case of the National Home Mortgage, if you purchase our bonds and or our issuances, there is no more provisional compliance. So it's already full and complete compliance from day one. And once you purchase the securities, the department will already issue you a license to sell for your main project. So I'll just show you a brief comparison between the methods of compliance. If you comply through escrow of funds, your participation is already non-recoverable. So this will represent costs to you. But if you purchase the asset-backed securities, your participation is recoverable, because it is basically an investment, and upon maturity of the bonds, the principal will be returned to you. In the escrow of funds provisional, as explained earlier, the certificate of compliance that will be issued to you is provisional only. But in the purchase of ABS, the compliance that will be issued to you will be full and immediate, and you can use it already for your main project. The developer no longer has to wait for the completion of the socialized housing project, and there is no opportunity loss on your part, because you can immediately sell your main project. For the purchase of ABS, you will be issued immediately a license to sell, so you can proceed with no delay on your part. And again, future and advanced compliance is allowed. If you decide to develop a socialized housing project, this will require a direct investment or involvement from you in the socialized housing development, and that will entail risks and costs and construction effort. But in the purchase of securities, it is safer and cheaper and more convenient for you as a method of compliance. There is no inherent risks and costs, and the effort required, there will be no effort required in construction. For the price ceiling for socialized subdivisions and condominiums, we all know the ceilings are 580 for vertical and 750 for horizontal. These costs will be foregone income for developers. But in the case of securities, the funds will be used for financing housing projects, and in a way you will be able to help address the housing backlog of the country. The amount of the ABS will be fully credited to you as compliance to your balanced housing requirements. So as a little introduction, National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation will act as the seller for the securitization issuance. We are a government-owned and controlled corporation. We were created in 1977 by virtue of Presidential Decree 1267. Our mission is to develop and provide for a secondary market for home mortgages granted by public and or private home financing institutions. So we purchase receivables from banks, from originators, from cooperatives, from local government units, and any institution that performs home financing functions. So in our issuances, there are parties involved in the transaction. These are required by law to protect the investors, such as yourself, if you decide to purchase the securities. These are parties that have to be present for the protection of the investors. First off is the National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation. We will act as the seller of the real estate mortgages, and afterwards we will also act as the servicer for the management and collection of amortization. Our arranger in this transaction is Land Bank Investment Banking Group. Our special purpose trust is the Land Bank Trust Banking Group. The trustee for the issuance will be PNB. The portfolio has been reviewed and undergone due diligence by PricewaterhouseCoopers, and as required by law, the bond has to be rated, and our rating agency is Phil Ratings. We also have our transaction counsel and our tax advisor, that is Mossvelt Law Offices. So for your information, these are the indicative terms of the issuance that we are proposing. The transaction will involve residential mortgage-backed securities of low delinquency housing loan receivables. These were purchased from Pag-ibig in 2019 under our flagship program, which is the Housing Loan Receivables Purchase Program. The issuer will be Land Bank Trust Banking Group as the SPT. The issue size is divided into two tranches. Class A will be 570 million. This is 80% of the entire issue size. This will be available for real estate investors to invest in. Class B will be 145.15 million, or 20% of the issuance. This Class B notes will be retained by National Home Mortgage to support Class A as a form of credit enhancement. The bond will have no interest. The issue price will be at issuance at 10% premium. However, this will be determined via a book building or auction sale. The redemption value will be at par value. The term or the tenor is 5 years. The asset pool, as mentioned earlier, will be Pag-ibig loans that have met our eligibility criteria, comprising 2,081 accounts amounting to 715.15 million. So the issuances will serve as alternative compliance to the Balanced Housing Act. So as a summary, the purchase of the ABS from National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation will provide real estate developers with full and immediate compliance to the requirements of the Balanced Housing Law. It will also serve as future and advanced compliance. If you have any future main projects, or if you have anything projects in your pipeline, you can already purchase the issuances, so you can have ready compliance for them. These are low-risk investments because they are backed by tangible assets, and there is recoverability of your investment at the maturity of the bonds. Since this is securitization, it is a convenient, safe, and a cheap form of compliance for you. So the issuance is about 570 million that will be issued to a maximum of 19 residential developers only. Our target date of issuance will be the fourth quarter of this year. Uh, so we hope that you will support our endeavor, our issuance, and together we can assist the government in addressing the backlog in the housing sector that has plagued the country for so long, and hopefully we can finally find a solution uh, to the housing backlog of our country. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Attorney Dan. I hope you don't mind hanging around for the open forum. But in the meantime, we'd like to pave the way for the presentation of the National Housing Authority. And here to present in their behalf is the Assistant General Manager of the National Housing Authority. He is, I don't know what this stands for, FPICE, PSSE, ACPER, ASEAN Engineer, and ASCE. He is also, apart from being officer in charge, Assistant General Manager, concurrently Regional Manager for Region 5, and he has been with NHA since 1981. I would like to call on, okay, so he has a long list of recognition, citations, trainings, seminars, voluntary involvement, and organizations. I would like to call on Engineer Albert A. Perfecto, Officer in Charge, Assistant General Manager of the National Housing Authority. Engineer.
Thank you, Vice President Joe. Pleasant afternoon to all. For in behalf of our General Manager, Jovan A. Tai, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for this occasion in having me as one of your guest speakers. First and foremost, my congratulations to CREBA, the Chamber of Real Estate and Business Association Incorporated, its officers and members for organizing today's webinar pursuant to its vision of a home for every Filipino. Congratulations to the National Chairman, Charlie A.B. Corayev, National President, Noel Tito Carino, its past presidents, officers, Board of Directors, and members of CREBA for your continued aspiration for the homeless sector of our country. Today's online seminar not only makes CREBA significant involvement in the real industry, but also a strong commitment and support to the new administration vision of addressing the country's housing backlog. This is evident in CREBA's 5-point agenda for housing, which is the package of policy and legislative reform proposals to be developed over the years, which target the provision of 500 housing units per year to address homelessness within a period of 20 years. From the data of the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, DUSUD, the country's estimated total backlog is around 6.5 million from 2016 to 2022. It is emphasized that there is a need to build the 1 million housing units per year under the present administration of President Marcos Jr. Hence, our Secretary Rizalino Acosar of DUSUD launched recently the Pambansang Pabahay Program for Filipinos, which aimed to build 1 million housing units per year within the 6-year term of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Our General Manager, Joban Atay, also launched the BBM Housing, which stands the Build Better and More Housing. This serves as the authority's mission as it continues to provide affordable, resilient, adequate, and inclusive communities for our countrymen. The National Housing will fully support the CREBA in attaining the construction of housing units as the builder of the National Shelter Agency. The National Housing Authority, being the government's sole production arm for housing, continuously implements the following programs. Allow me to share my powerful presentation to explain the programs of the National Housing Authority. The National Housing Authority programs and initiatives housing and urban development dated September 29, 2022. The NHA continues to be steadfast in its pledge of building better and more housing. We have the program for ISF living along danger areas in Metro Manila, the 32 billion, which is implemented to address the requirements of families living along danger areas, which entails the provision of housing units, community facilities, socio-economic, and other community support programs. Sample for this project is the Mangahan Residences 1 in Pasig, Mangahan Residences 2 in Pasig, also in Camarin Residences Caloocan, Camarin Residences 1 in Caloocan, which is an 5-story LRB, low-rise building. We have also resettlement programs affected by the Supreme Court mandamos to clean up the Manila Bay area. We started the implementation in 2018 in response to a Supreme Court issuance of a writ of continuing mandamos ordering relevant government agencies and local government units to clean up, rehabilitate, and preserve Manila Bay and make its water fit for swimming and other form of creation. The mandamos encompasses the tributaries leading into the bay, the Manila Bay. Agencies and living along the 3-meter easement of rivers and esteros. The mandamos comprises the province of Bataan, Pampanga, Tarlac, Bulacan, Rizal, and Laguna, Cavite, and the Metro Manila. Sample of our project is in Malaynan Park Residences, Cavite, Hermosaville, Rizal, and Maribeles Heights, Bataan. These are all the off-site resettlement projects wherein the ISF
We lost you, Engineer Albert. I think na-mute ka ulit. Engineer? Engineer Albert? Okay. there. Okay.
Next program is the Resettlement Assistance Program to local. We call it the Resettlement Assistance Program for local government units. This is a program developed pursuant to NHA mandate under Republic Act number 7279 or the Urban Development Housing Act of 1992 to provide financial technical assistance to LGUs in the implementation of their urban development and housing programs in line with NHA role as enabler and facilitator in the housing delivery process. This is a joint undertaking with the LGU to provide fund contribution and technical assistance, while the LGU is tasked to offer land, fund additional costs, and supervise project implementation. On October 12, 2018, NHA Memorandum Circular 2018-030 was issued authorizing the increase in fund contribution for LGU. For the first to fourth class city and provinces, the fund contribution increased from 24 million to 50 million. This is half loan, half grant. For fifth and sixth class cities and provinces, the increase is from 12 million to 25 million full grant, whether this housing. NHA also introduced improvement in the development standards, compliance to the requirements for local government participation, and alignment with gender and in development GOD projects. These are the example of the RAP LGU projects in Nueva Ecija, Ilocos Norte, Bugay Resettlement Project, Binmali Resettlement Project in Pangasinan. We have also the project for indigenous people housing, a program pursued under the framework of RAP LGU, a housing assistance to indigenous peoples in coordination with NCIP and concerned 18-029 was issued authorizing the increase in fund contribution for LGU from 10 million to 20 million full grant. Furthermore, improvements include additional provision of dormitories for IP students studying in state university. 11,384 completed as of June 2022. We have the Santa Josepa Tribal Village in Agusan del Sur, and we have the Dinapigi IP Housing Project in Isabela, and Bakong Canyon in North Cagayan. We have also a program for resettlement assistance for former rebels. On April 3, 2018, President Duterte signed AO number 10, centralizing all government efforts for the reintegration of former rebels and creating for the purpose of an IATF as a result of the administrative order, an enhanced comprehensive local integration program, we call it ECLIP, was launched to provide assistance for former rebels who expressed desire to abandon armed struggle. To complement with the administrative order, ECLIP NHA established a comprehensive program that will provide a framework for the provision of housing assistance to former. Option for assistance, we have to avail housing units reallocated for former rebels. They can have the housing units at the existing AFP-PNP house. 450,000 for housing construction. Of 100,000 for repair of existing housing unit owned by former rebels. 882 former rebels were provided assistance with equivalent to over 400 million as of February 22, 2020. We have also the Comprehensive Social Benefits Program, the CSBP, for killed in action, wounded in action, and for killed in police operation. Institutionalizing the Comprehensive Social Benefits Program, which institutionalized the program as mechanism to rationalize social benefits and assistance to qualified uniformed personnel. Pursuant to EO NHA-MC number 2020-049, was issued to provide the guidelines and procedures for housing assistance for the beneficiaries of AFP and PNP who were killed or wounded during military and police operation. Options for assistance are the following: availment of housing units from NHA Old AFP PNP housing project, the availment of housing units under JEP, which is an enhanced Old AFP PNP project, cash assistance of 450,000 for housing construction, cash assistance of 100,000 for repair of existing housing unit owned by beneficiary. 819 beneficiaries were provided assistance as of December 2021. 630 are AFP, KIA and WIA. 189 are PNP, KIPO and WIPO. So the total amount discharged We have also the enhanced AFP PNP housing project for government employees housing program. It was formulated in line with section number 2 of Administrative Order number 9 series of 2011. The NHA was directed of revitalized government employees and AFP PNP housing program. Due to the clamor of other government agency and the previous experience in the old AFP PNP program of the military and police personnel, President Duterte directed the NHA to enhance the housing units of the uniformed personnel and government employees. So we revitalized service delivery, stylish modern design, expanded allocation program. So we enhance our housing units with a core type 2 completed housing units with a bigger lot area and a bigger floor area of the housing units, whether it's a single duplex, 2-story, or the low-rise building. These are all the example of the government employees housing program in Madaya Residences Davao, Acacia Greenfield Homes in Nueva Ecija, Our Lady of Mount Carmel Bill in Batangas, and Scout Ranger Bill in Bulacan. For our special project under the ADSI or DUSUD, we have the Marawi Rehabilitation. On May 23, 2017 in Marawi City, a firefight erupted between the military and Maoti group. The Duterte administrator issued Administrative Order number 3 and Task Force Bangon Marawi. TFBM was born. It's composed of various government agencies working together towards the recovery, rehabilitation, reconstruction of the conflict-stricken city. As part of the TFBM Subcommittee on Housing, NHA is in charge of the Master Development Plan, debris management, and road infrastructure. Completed clearing of 250 hectares debris, completed 7 transitory sites with 4,202 shelter units ongoing, development of 2 permanent sites that will generate 1,500 units. Housing design future lot area of 90 square meter, and floor area of 46 square meters, composed of 3 bedrooms, living room, 1 comfort room, and parking area. Status of the road infrastructure over 97% completed. Sarimanok Sports Stadium and Marawi Convention Center to be fully completed by August 2022. We have also permanent housing program for calamity victims, for families affected by calamity wherein their houses were totally or partially damaged. We have the Typhoon Yolanda implemented to respond to the housing need of low and marginal income or informal settlers affected by Super Typhoon Yolanda, which made landfall in the Visayas region on November 8, 2013. We have the Typhoon Sendong in 2012, affected regions 7 and 10. Typhoon Pablo in 2013, to respond the housing need of low and marginal income. Last December 2012, which heavily affected the provinces of Compostela Valley and Davao Oriental. Typhoon Nina implemented in 2022, in which heavily affected the provinces of Catanduanes, Region 5. Typhoon Usman, year 2020, the provinces of Albay and Camarines Sur. And we have the Build Back Better, which is the Typhoon Quinta, Rolly, and Ulysses, wherein on November 18, 2020, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte issued Executive Order number 120 to strengthen rehabilitation and recovery efforts in typhoon hit areas through the creation of the Build Back Better Task Force, addressing the housing need of areas hit by Typhoon Quinta, Typhoon Rolly last October 2020, and Typhoon Ulysses last November 2020. Affected regions are Region 2, Region 3, Region 4, NCR, Marikina, and Region 5. The Mindanao earthquake implemented in 2020 to respond the housing need of low and marginal income or ISF affected by the series of earthquakes that struck Mindanao on October 2019, North Cotabato, and December 2019, Davao del Sur. The Leyte earthquake implemented in 2018 to respond to the housing need of low and marginal income, and ISF affected by the 6.5 magnitude earthquake in Leyte last July 6, 2017. Naga Cebu landslide in Barangay Tinaan, Naga Cebu, last September 20, 2018. The Taal volcano eruption last January 2020. The Mayun volcano eruption that need to respond the housing need of low and marginal income and ISF. The Zamboanga conflict implemented in 2014 for the informal settler families affected by the siege in Zamboanga last 2013. We have also a program for partially damaged, whose houses were partially damaged by calamity, affected by calamity. We call it the Emergency Housing Assistance Program, or EHAP. This is previously the Housing Material Assistance Program. The EHAP was introduced based on the need to simplify requirements, provide flexibility in the implementation of the program, and to enable a faster and a quicker response to identified families whose houses are totally or partially damaged by disaster, both natural or man-made. Assistance is either in the form of cash or housing construction materials in case of scarce supply of housing materials during large-scale disaster. A minimum of 5,000 up to a maximum of 1,000 grant shall be provided per family beneficiary for rebuilding their damaged houses. After the onset of Typhoon Rolly that affected Region 4 and Mimaropa in 2020, NHA aided 500 million to 88,000 families with totally and partially damaged houses. After the impact of Typhoon Odette in 2021, the NHA, by virtue of Presidential Decree Directive Number 2021-074, directly downloaded special EHA funds to affected provincial government units and highly urbanized cities, independent component cities. A total of 487.5 million benefited 97,500 families. EHA for earthquake victims in Luzon, implemented to quickly provide aid to victims of the recent July 27, 2022, 7 magnitude earthquake that affected the Luzon. Our GM Joventine personally lead the distribution of EHAP in the said area, in Ilocos Sur and in Abra. Cash assistance provided last August 11, 2022 in Ilocos Sur and Abra. 388 families received 20,000 each. 26,280 families received 10,000 each. So a total of 270 million total cash assistance. Also, MOA signing between NHA, DUSUD, HDMF, SMDC, and LGO Bukay Abra for the shelter assistance and permanent housing for earthquake victims. We have also a program for Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa program. The BP2 pursuant to EO number 11407 of 2020 was institutionalized as pillar of balanced regional development to foster socially cohesive, resilient, and sustainable rural communities. 893 total beneficiaries dispatched operation to CAR Region 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, and Caraga. Also, some 4,214 applicants who opted to return on their own to their chosen city province will be issued certificate of eligibility. Ongoing development of Pag-asa Organic Village, we have 87 planned units in Lanao del Norte, that is Bagong Pag-asa Organic Village, and Woodridge Subdivision, 286 units in Zamboanga del Norte. These are the accomplishment of BP2 dispatch operation year 2021, 2020 to 2021, the corresponding regions, corresponding city, province, and municipality, date of dispatch, and number of beneficiaries. Also, the accomplishment of BP2 dispatch operation year 2020. Total beneficiaries dispatched is 893 from year 2020 to 2020. We have also the PNR South Long Haul, the MOA coverage between the DUSO, the DOTR, and NHA and PNR. We call it the PNR South Long Haul, which starts from Calamba to Batangas and segments to Calamba to San Pablo Laguna to Matnog Sorsogon. So the role of NHA is to provide the social profiling and will be in charge for the relocation of informal settlers within the right of way of the alignment of the PNR South Long Haul from Laguna to Quezon, Camarines Sur, Albay, and Sorsogon. This is a project of DOTR for the improvement of the South Long Haul PNR railways. Thanks. Also, we have the APEC, which stands for the Accreditation of Innovative Technologies for Housing, a system for accrediting innovative technologies for housing. Wherein the committee members composed of the DUSUD, Department of Human Settlement, Urban Development, National Housing Authority, the DOST, DPWH, Home Development Mutual Fund, the National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation, Construction Industry of the Philippines, the Department of Trade and Industry, and Bureau of Philippine Standards and University of the Philippines. The objectives of the committee is act as a review and approving body for application for accreditation of innovative technologies, housing for appropriate for housing. It is to assist producer or innovative technologies in securing acceptance of their products or system in the market, as well to make these technologies acceptable. Thank you. That's end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Engineer Albert. At this point, may I recognize a few more of our attendees from our Baguio chapter, Mr. Tom Panis. We also have with us past President Florentino June Dolalia, our past chairman for the Philippine Board of Real Estate, Eduardo E.G. Ong, past National Director Fer Martinez is with us. Mr. Demi Posadas, our Module Director for EdPrem, is also with us. And I'd like to thank once again, Fast Track Solutions, represented by Mr. Vincent Raimundo, Associate Director for Enterprise Business Group, Zel Tuason, Marketing Team Lead, and Cas Pakurib and Ciara Gina. Okay, for those of you who would like to ask questions, kindly put them into our Q&A box. We do have advanced questions though, from John Ortiz for NHMFC. Are your foreclosed properties, okay. Can your foreclosed properties be sold by brokers? And if so, how can brokers be accredited? Attorney Dan?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, there. Okay.
So the question is, how can developers avail?
No. The question is, do you accredit brokers to sell your foreclosed properties? We understand that you have a list of foreclosed properties that are for sale. Would you accredit brokers to sell them?
I will repeat the question. We're having trouble with our audio.
Okay. For your foreclosed properties, would you accredit brokers to sell them?
We do the disposition of acquired properties in-house.
Okay.
Yeah, we do. We have several programs. We have our online housing fair. We also have our continuing programs to dispose of these assets. But in terms of accrediting brokers, I don't think we have such program yet.
Yes, well then maybe you can consider accrediting brokers so that you can dispose your foreclosed properties more quickly.
Yes, I think we will take that into consideration. It may be a good idea for us.
Yes, thank you. That question was from John Ortiz. We have another question from Mauro Oriquia. He had an original loan of 371,000 in July 6, 1992, and has fully paid this loan, including interest last year. He is now 72 years old. Why is NHMFC asking him to pay EVAT for the amortizations that he has paid?
I think taxes are also part of what he has to pay. So I think, yeah, part of the amortization will be the taxes that he has to pay. So I don't think the age is relevant for the obligation to pay tax. So I think it has to be paid.
Yeah, the obligation was in 1992 when there was no VAT yet. And he has already fully paid his
Okay.
loan last year. And the amount of 371,000 as principal, would you think that is even vatable?
We'll have to see. I'm not sure about what happened between 1992 and
Yeah,
today.
I
So,
understand.
yeah, I think my answer might not be accurate if I try to answer it based on the facts that he has given me
Yeah.
or he's given us. Maybe what the better thing to do is for him to coordinate with us.
Who is the best party for him to coordinate with, sir?
I think he should coordinate with our collection group.
Collection group.
Yes,
Okay.
he should maybe call or visit our offices and coordinate with our collection group.
Okay, so Mr. Mauro Oriquia, if you're with us today, kindly coordinate with the collection group of NHMFC so that you can state your case and hopefully they can help you resolve. Okay, one last advance question from our chapter in La Union. Do NHA and NHMFC have plans to set up regional field offices in the La Union area? Sir Engineer Albert first from NHA, do you have regional office already in?
I think we
Actually, we have a district offices in our, but in La Union, it will be covered by our regional and district offices in our existing regional and district offices.
Which is located where, sir?
In Baguio, in Abra, and other district offices.
Okay.
Probably the concern of housing projects for NHA in La Union will be addressed in the district offices.
Okay. So they can go to the La Union field office. Okay. Oh, to the Baguio field office. Okay. How about NHMFC? Do you already or have you already set up regional offices?
We have regional offices, but we don't have one in La Union. We're thinking of setting up in the north, but not in La Union. It would really depend on the number of accounts that we have for a particular area. But right now, there are no plans to set up a regional office in La Union. But we can start.
Okay.
But we
Thank you.
take that into
Maybe
consideration.
Baguio? Yeah.
Maybe in
Yeah.
the future, we hope so.
Thank you, Attorney Dan.
Ma'am Jo, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Actually, the La Union is under our Ilocos Sur District Office, headed by Engineer Jefferson Ganado, our district manager.
Okay.
But the office is situated at Ilocos Sur.
In Ilocos. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that information. Okay. So on to our live Q&As from past President Jimmy Cura. Does NHA still have construction crews that build houses for targeted sectors?
Past President Jaime Cura, NHA do not have our own construction crew. We will actually need the support of the developers and contractors who is our partner in the construction of housing units.
Okay, so do you have a process of accreditation for your...
We have a process to conduct a bidding, that is the RA 9184. Any developer or licensed contractor can join our bidding process for the construction of housing units. Also, we
Okay.
have the community-based initiative approach program, wherein the qualified developer can join and submit their intent for the site acquisition, the land, the site development, and the construction of housing units.
All right. Thank you. Again, also from past President Jimmy Cura, what percentage of the 1 million houses for each year is NHA committed produce?
Past President Jaime Cura, my apology, wala pa po kami exact figure. We're still in the process of planning stages for the commitment of NHA for the 1 million housing units per year. Once we establish our work program, we can relate to you the number of figures targeted for each year by NHA.
Okay. So for now, you haven't ironed out your commitment. Okay. From an anonymous attendee, how can developers avail of the Balay Shelter asset-backed securities compliance? Is this transaction through land bank?
Yes, that is correct. The issuer of the bonds will be Land Bank. So if we get to finally issue the Balay Shelter ABS compliance, a transaction involving purchases of that bond will be through Land Bank.
Okay, maybe for the sake of those who did not hear it well, when is your target issue date?
Our target is the last quarter of this year.
Last quarter of this year.
Yes, so soon
Okay.
we will be able to issue it.
Okay, so related to that, from Jeanette Po, you mentioned that only 19 residential developers can avail of the 570 million Balay Shelter ABS issuance, and will start this by this fourth quarter. May we know how soon, or what's your timetable for the processing and approval of the purchase of the ABS? What department can we coordinate with on the requirements? From Engineer Jeanette Ko.
Yes, good afternoon, Engineer Ko. The transactions will be done through Land Bank as our issuer for the bonds. So if we issue the bonds, the transactions for interested or prospective investors will be done through Land Bank.
But since this is going to only be available to 19, will you have some kind of a screening system, or is it first come, first served?
The process is interested investors will have to send their expression of interest for the purchase of the bonds and for how much. And then the Land Bank, which is our arranger, this will be done through a Dutch auction. What this means is they will look at the offers of the investors and they will determine how much the issue price will be, depending on the demand for the bond from the investors and the bid that they will express.
I see. So there will be bidding.
Yes, so we call it a Dutch auction. It's sort of a bidding, and only after that will the issuer be able to determine how much the issue price will be.
Okay, my own question, is this issuance limited only to developers who wish to comply, or would it be open to those who just simply wish to invest?
For this particular issuance, it's only open for real estate developers.
I see.
Because
Okay.
we want this issuance to be a method or a mode for them to be able to comply with the balanced housing requirements. So this is part of our way of assisting them in making sure that they comply with the balanced housing, and indirectly assisting the country in its housing backlog problems. So we'll be able to build more houses our uh, for our citizens and address the be part and contribute to the goal of eliminating 6 million houses in 6 years.
Great, thank you. Do you have set minimum and maximum availments?
Yes, we're looking at a minimum purchase of 10 million and increments of 5
Okay.
million. Yes.
So it's only by fives after the initial 10.
After the initial 10, they can make increment purchases of 5
By
million.
5. Okay. Thank you. From Edna Josephine Blanco. Hello, good afternoon, Sir Dante. From the presentation, it seems choosing to have the escrow account is a less attractive option for the developers. However, from the report, only about 19 developers have availed or can avail of the asset-backed account. There must be more developers out there, but in a quandary to get which option. Please comment on this, sir. Where are the other developers?
Yes, because we availed of the provision in the Securitization Act that says if you sell it to 19 developers or less, there will be less requirements for us, so the procedure will be faster.
Oh, I see.
Yes, because if we sell it to more than 19, that will already be considered public sale,
Yeah.
meaning there will be a lot more procedures that will and requirements that will have to be complied with. But since our target market are already sophisticated investors, being in businessmen themselves, um, we believe that the tedious requirements from the SEC would no longer be required. And um, we think that 19 developers, we hope that for 19 developers, we will be able to gather that number and that they will subscribe, hopefully, to the issuance that we will offer to the public by the fourth quarter.
Okay, should there be excess demand, would you consider a new issuance?
Yes, certainly, yes. It depends on the appetite of the market. If it's oversubscribed, we will certainly consider issuing another one.
Okay, thank you. From Jeanette Ko for NHA, are you still acquiring raw land for future projects?
Yes.
Actually, at present, ma'am, we stopped our acquisition of raw land for future projects. We're just utilizing our existing properties to generate housing projects. And another thing, for our right-of-way projects and for other calamity housing projects, the acquisition of raw land properties is already being delivered by our developer or contractor. So it's part of our project, the acquisition of raw land and the site development and housing construction. So yun na po ang developer ang nag-offer ng available land for resettlement, which includes the site development and the construction of the proposed housing units.
Okay, so no acquisitions at the present time. Okay, last question from Gigi Roa of our Cagayan de Oro chapter. I believe this is for NHMFC. Would you kindly elaborate on the difference between an escrow and an asset-backed security?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Miss Gigi Roa. When you invest in escrow, the amount that you invested is no longer recoverable. So it will represent cost for you. Um, However, if you invest in ABS, our tenor is 5 years. So if after 5 years, you will be able to recoup your investment. So although our security issuance does not bear interest, we believe that the benefit for that to the investor or the real estate developers, who is our target market for this issuance, will be the compliance, the convenience
Yeah.
of complying with the requirement of the law to set up socialized housing as alongside your main project.
Yeah.
So it will be very easy for the developer to comply in a form of investment by buying our securities. And after the 5 year tenor of the security, there will be return of principal for you. So parang savings lang siya for you. As against an escrow, cost na yon sa'yo because there will be no more return and the funds will be held by the department, the DHSUD, and they will have discretion as to on where to place the amount of the escrow. It's really uh, discretion, and they have full control of the escrow funds.
Thank you so much for that clarification. We have 3 participants who have raised their hands. So before we end the afternoon's forum, maybe we can ask them to air their questions live. Mr. Arturo Pasco, would you like to ask your question live? You may turn on your video. Sir Pasco?
Pasco, ayun.
Do you have any questions, sir? Okay, while Mr. Pasco is preparing his question, maybe we can ask Sir John Cambiac Chan Jr. from our CREBA La Union chapter. To air his question. Do you have any questions, Sir John?
Yeah.
There.
Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yeah, good afternoon. You raise your hand. Do you have any questions for our presenter panelists this afternoon?
No, ma'am, I did not raise my hand.
Oh, naka-ano lang. How about, okay, thank you. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, ma'am.
Thank you. How about Sir Jimmy Espinosa from our Pampanga chapter? Do you have any questions? Wala? Okay, another question from May De Castro. Does the investment in the ABS need to be of the same amount for the social housing compliance of 5% or 15% for that matter of project cost?
Yes, the beauty of the ABS is that you're credited for the full amount of your investment. So, for example, if you invest 10 million for ABS, your compliance will also be for 10 million. And you can use that compliance now, immediately. You can also use your compliance in the future. So if you have projects in your pipeline for the future, maybe next year, you can use that also. Parang you comply in advance. It's like
Mhm.
an advanced compliance for you. So when you do your main project, you won't have any more problems or concerns or even delays because of having to comply with the balanced housing requirement. Um, for the, I think 5%, that means refers to condominium project.
Condominiums, yes.
But for subdivision, it's also 15. So the same
Yeah.
percentages of compliance will apply for when you purchase securities.
Now, I seem to have heard in your presentation that there can be no combinations.
There is no combination, you cannot combine. I think that applies to all the methods of compliance.
So assuming your compliance is, say, 12 million, you will have to get 15 million for insecurities, or can the developer avail of the 2 million, or just perhaps build a 2 million peso socialized housing, or some 2 million peso socialized housing units?
Correct, you're right. You're right.
That's
Uh,
possible?
yes, that's possible.
Okay.
You are allowed to combine several methods of compliance. So, for example, if you already have an escrow with the DHSUD, for a certain amount, um, and you just have to need the balance can be filled up by purchasing the ABS. So for example, if you have a requirement of 15 million as a balanced housing, and you already have, for example, an escrow of 5 million, you just need 10 million to be able to comply. So if you buy 10 million with us, you can add that to your already complied escrow of 5 million. So
Nice.
that's
Okay.
yes.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Last question. After this, I don't think we have more time to entertain any more questions. From Edwin Kalamba, what is the difference of NHMFC and SHAPC, or SHFC, as far as job description in implementing housing backlog, the housing backlog of 6 million?
Yes. SHFC, or the Socialized Housing Finance Corporation, is our subsidiary. We created SHAPC to implement the community mortgage program. It used to be part of the programs of NHMFC, but it was decided earlier on, I think 2004 or some earlier, to establish a separate corporation just for the CMP, or the community mortgage. So they
Ah,
handle the community mortgage program. We handle the purchases for securitization purposes. So we purchase low cost housing or economic housing, but they deal mostly with community mortgages.
right. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And both corporations, both GOCCs, contribute to the goal of the government to reduce the backlog.
Should we entertain this last question? Ano ba? Okay. Thank you, Cons Edwin. Can performance bond from Reynaldo Hapa? Can performance bond being paid by developers to DSUD be used in the housing program by the LGU? Balanced housing compliance by developers can be used by LGU in their housing programs as per amended law of RA 7279. If these two sources of funds can be utilized by the LGU, it will be more feasible.
Yes, ma'am. I think LGUs, when they do their projects, those are socialized housing projects already. And yes, to begin with, they're already socialized. And under the law, if you are developing socialized, you do not have to comply with the balanced housing because you're
Yes.
already developing socialized. This
Right.
only applies to developers who are into, for example, high-end subdivisions,
Economic housing.
economic housing. But if you are already into socialized housing projects like LGUs, they have no need to comply with the balanced housing project requirements.
Okay, so thank you. I have no mic, but my question. Okay. So from Arturo Pasco, who raised his hand earlier, his question is it possible for a person to bid or buy property in his own name? But he will always win for so many times in bidding. I wonder what for what? Mr. Pasco, bidding for what po ito?
Foreclosed property siguro.
Perhaps for foreclosed properties. Can someone win several times in bidding for foreclosed properties?
Isa-isa lang.
Use the name, you cannot.
Pwede bang maramihan?
Yes, Ma'am Jo. I'm not sure if this question is for us, no, but
I guess it's for you because you're the ones that sell foreclosed properties. I don't think NHA has foreclosed properties. Do you? Yeah. Meron po kayo, Engineer Albert?
For foreclosed properties, ma'am, hindi naman namin, ma'am, pinabibid. We
So,
sell the award.
so I guess
But
it's for
qualified
NHMFC
award.
then. Yeah.
yeah, when we do our bidding, ma'am, for our housing fair, usually people bid for 2 or more houses, but we allow them to for only one, meaning
I see.
yes,
Okay.
ma'am. I think it's a matter of policy. I'm not really sure. Only one, the bidder can only bid for or win as highest bidder for one property,
Okay.
not for
Great.
several. Yes.
Thank you. It is our honor and pleasure to have NHMFC President Honorable Renato L. Tobias this afternoon, Attorney Dan Patapat of NHMFC, and Engineer Albert Perfecto of NHA. We hope to be able to see more of you and hopefully get more involvement from you in the future. We will have at least 6 more years together during the current administration. As I mentioned earlier, informally, our chamber is going to celebrate 50 years next year. So we have lined up a series of activities the whole year through. And we look forward to having you in one or more of those events. Thank you very much for your time, everybody. I would like to make a few announcements. Please save the date, October 28th there. October 28, 2022, the 49th CREBA Anniversary Summit will be held. Do we have a venue already? I think the Dusit Hotel as usual. So this is our very, very first face-to-face meeting. So we're all excited to see you. Our summit is entitled Gearing Up for the Future of Philippine Real Estate and Housing. And we will line up, again, good speakers for you. And then for our executive development program in real estate management, we have this program with the De La Salle University of St. Benilde. It will, I think the first or the next cycle will begin module 1, entitled Land Laws and Property Titling, on October 15. So for those who are interested, please get in touch with our CREBA Secretariat. Our bowling tournament will open tomorrow. So for those who are interested, also please get in touch with our Secretariat. And we shall also have a golf tournament on November 25, 2022. So please stay tuned to our Facebook page, www.creba.ph, and our secretariat will keep on sending you messages through your cell phones, Viber, and also email messages. So once again, thank you everyone. Thank you to our esteemed guests and panelists. We hope to see you again very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you po.
The Chamber of Real Estate and Builders Associations Incorporated, or CREBA, is the single biggest Philippine organization of professionals and agrupations comprising the widest cross-section of the housing and real estate industry. These are developers, brokers, appraisers, contractors, manufacturers, suppliers, engineers, architects, and others engaged in the shelter and real estate business. As early as 1960s, to unite the different disciplines involved in the industry, the idea of an umbrella organization was conceived. During that time, private subdivisions were mushrooming in the peripheries of Metro Manila. Due to fast pace of development, the developers and buyers were confronted with different obstacles and problems. In October 1973, Attorney Manuel M. Serrano, joined by the leaders of the industry, formally founded CREBA. The chamber is registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission as a non-stock, non-profit, non-government organization. To protect and promote the interest of the members, CREBA seeks to harmonize the conflicting forces of business, government, and the homeless society. CREBA has committed to be an effective and dynamic partner for national development, as the real estate industry being a major pump primer of the economy, and the government recognizes this role. The Chamber sits in legislative hearings in both houses of Congress on bills that bear impact on the industry, to ensure that the interest of the members and the welfare of the public in general is enhanced. For over 40 years, the Chamber can take pride on what it has done, pushing for reforms, drawing up significant proposals, and mustering the strength to push its plans forward into real action. Today, CREBA is at crossroads of facing the challenges of the past and the present. Its initiatives and advocacies have been consistently focused not just on the interests of its members, but also enabling the millions of homeless families to acquire decent, affordable homes, vigilant in its dream to see a home for every Filipino. CREBA's aspirations for the housing sector is embodied in its 5-point agenda for housing. It's a package of interrelated policy and legislative reform proposals, ensuring that every Filipino is able to live a full and happy life in a home he can call his own. 3 major issues that need to be effectively and cohesively addressed in order to curb the country's at least 5.5 million housing backlog are finance, land, and governance. The 5-point agenda aims to provide long-term and affordable funds for socialized and economic housing, affordable homes in urban areas nationwide, equitable allocation of lands for human settlements, agriculture, and the environment, efficient housing regulations, and the creation of a housing and urban development department that will address housing concerns. The 5-point agenda pursues CREBA's long-term avowed mission of making homes more affordable for the majority of Filipinos, a home where his family can live, work, play, and grow. CREBA leaves no stones unturned in its relentless vision towards a home for every Filipino, transforming the environment of social and economic development, leading to the intensified production of 500,000 housing units every year to build 10 million homes in a span of 2 decades.